Imagine fighting a war so brutal. You can't even see the man trying to kill you, just flashes of gunfire, screams, and mud everywhere. The night wasn't your friend. It was your executioner. The air reeked of smoke and fear, and every shadow could be the last thing you'd ever see. This wasn't a movie. This was the Somme, 1916, the battlefield that chewed up men and spat out ghosts. And somewhere in that chaos, revenge was born. The British weren't here to play defense anymore. They'd lost brothers, friends, whole towns. They came back not to fight, but to pay back every bullet, every drop of blood that fell into that cursed mud. They thought the Germans were weak, worn down done. But the second those whistles blew, the ground exploded like it was alive. Machine guns tore through the dark like lightning, and men who took one step out of the trenches were cut down before they could even scream. Thousands moved forward into that black hole, tripping over wire, slipping into shell craters filled with water and bodies. The only light they got came from the bursts of explosions, short and cruel, lighting up faces twisted in fear. You couldn't tell who was friend or foe, only who was screaming louder. The night swallowed everything. They said push forward, but the mud pulled them down like quicksand. The rain mixed with blood, and the earth felt alive, dragging at their boots, begging them to stay. The Germans had turned the ground into a slaughterhouse, bunkers buried deep and guns hidden like monsters under the soil. You couldn't see where the fire was coming from, only hear that ripping metal sound that tore through flesh and bone. Every flash of light revealed another fallen comrade, and every second you survived felt like a miracle soaked in terror. Men weren't soldiers out there anymore. They were shadows trying to outlive the night. But then came the night that changed everything. The British command decided enough was enough. Artillery had failed them. Daylight had betrayed them. So they turned to darkness itself. No bombardment this time. No warning. Just silence and a plan to move like ghosts. When the clock hit midnight, they crept out of their trenches. Bayonets fixed, breaths held, boots sinking into the mud without a sound. They slipped under the barbed wire, through the smoke into the German lines. No shouting, no gunfire. Just the sound of rain hitting helmets and hearts pounding like drums. For once, the darkness wasn't their enemy. It was their weapon. The Germans never saw them coming. One by one, sentries vanished into the night. The hunters had become the hunted. It was payback, raw and personal. Men who'd lost everything now moved with cold precision, avenging brothers buried just yards away. It wasn't about victory anymore, it was about making the enemy feel what they'd felt. The silent assault cut deeper than any shelling. Knives, bayonets, whispers of death in the dark, quick, cold, and final. And for a brief moment, it felt like justice, even if it was drenched in blood. By the time dawn crept in, the world looked unreal. Smoke floating over red mud, the sun struggling to shine on what was left of humanity. The survivors stumbled through what used to be trenches and was now a graveyard. Bodies of friends and enemies lay side by side, their faces hidden in the same dirt. The ones who made it through didn't cheer, they didn't smile. They just stared into the emptiness, knowing a part of them had died out there too. The revenge they came for didn't taste like victory, it tasted like ashes. Years later, some of those men would say the night assaults of the Somme were the most terrifying hours of their lives. They remembered the screams, the silence, the sound of mud swallowing footsteps. They remembered seeing a flash of light and realizing the face in front of them wasn't an enemy, just another terrified boy trying to survive. The darkness didn't care whose side you were on. It took everyone the same way. And when they went home, the darkness followed them. Every thunderclap sounded like artillery. Every nightmare dragged them back to that night when hell wore the color black. They say darkness hides monsters, but at the Somme, the monsters weren't hiding. They were the men who had to become something less than human, just to make it through. The battlefield didn't just kill bodies, it broke souls. Yet in that horror, there was something fierce, something defiant. Those men stood against the impossible, fought blind, and still pushed forward. Because even in total darkness, revenge burns like fire, and fire, no matter how small, always finds a way to be seen. The battle fought in total darkness wasn't just a fight for ground or pride. Because even in total darkness, revenge burns like fire, and fire, no matter how small, always finds a way to be seen. The battle fought in total darkness wasn't just a fight for ground or pride. It was a moment where humanity showed both its worst and its strongest sides. The night took everything from them, their light, their hope, their innocence. but it also proves something unbreakable. Even when the world goes black, even when death feels closer than your next breath, the will to rise to fight back never dies. That's what the Somme was. Not victory, not defeat. Just raw, relentless survival, lit by flashes of revenge in a world consumed by night.